Please be seated. Court is back in session. Are we ready to bring the jury back in?
If you could just test your lights one time. I think buttons 3 and 4 are the two we're supposed to hit to demo.
Okay, that's 4.
That's perfect. That'll work.
Okay, so when you want them, you'll tell me and I'll press 4 and then 1 brings them back up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Judge, also we have met with the defense and agreed upon at this time I think 163 exhibits, 1 through 163 on the court's evidence list, as well as some others, for example 184. So with the court's permission, I will just be referring to them by the number as opposed to the letter, as my understanding is the defense has no objection. Okay,
so 184 is coming into evidence as 184, or would it be as 164?
Well, Judge,
yes, Okay, well, the reason I want to keep it straight is because if you've stipulated through 163, what you're indicating would be number 184 is actually marked as U for identification. So if the other exhibits between 163 and that exhibit aren't entered, we're going to have, going back to the jury, 1 through 163 and then 184.
I understand the court's concern. My anticipation is that they're all going to come in.
Okay. If we're missing somewhere, if we're out of numerical order. So there's no objections then to 184 coming into, or you coming in as 184?
That's correct.
Okay. It will be so marked. Anything else? Okay. Anything else from the defense?
No, thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring the jury in.
Jury's present, Your Honor.
Please be seated. Everybody have their notepads and pencils ready? Okay, the state will call your first witness, please.
Chad Joseph. Chad Joseph, please.
Do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I repeat it?
No, you have to say yes,
no.
sir.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. If you'd please tell the members of the jury your name.
Chad Joseph.
Mr. Joseph, how old are you?
15.
Are you in school?
Yes.
What grade were you in this past school year?
8.
In February of last year, 2012, did you live here in Sanford?
Yes.
What neighborhood did you live in?
Retreat at Twin Lakes.
And what was your street address?
2631 Retreat Reef Circle.
Who did you live with in February 2012?
My mom.
And what is your mother's name?
Brandy Green.
Did anyone else live with you and your mother back in February of 2012?
No.
Were you in school in February of 2012?
Yes.
Where did you go to school?
Sanford Middle.
And what grade were you in then?
7.
Did you know a person by the name of Trayvon Martin?
Yes.
And how did you meet Trayvon Martin?
By Tracy.
Tracy Martin?
Yes.
Is that Trayvon Martin's dad?
Yes.
All right. And how did you come to know Tracy Martin and Trayvon Martin?
That's my mom's boyfriend.
Tracy Martin is your mother's boyfriend?
Yes.
All right. Prior to February 2012, had Trayvon Martin ever been to your residence before?
Yes.
And how would you describe your relationship with Trayvon Martin?
Good.
Were the two of you close?
Yes.
Specifically, let me turn your attention to the afternoon of Sunday, February 26th of last year. Was Trayvon Martin at your residence that afternoon?
Yes.
And what were the two of you doing?
Watching TV and playing a game.
And when you say playing the game, what do you mean?
PS3.
Video games?
Yeah.
All right, and PS3 is PlayStation 3?
Yes.
Were your mother or Tracy Martin home that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon?
No.
At some point in the early evening or the afternoon, did Trayvon Martin leave your residence?
Yes.
And where did he go?
To the store.
And how did Trayvon Martin get to the store?
He walked.
Did you go with him when he left your residence?
No.
Why not?
Because I was playing a game.
Did Trayvon Martin ask you if you wanted anything before he left for the store?
Yes.
And what was that?
Skittles.
Is that what you told him?
Yes.
Had you ever been to the 7-Eleven store closest to your residence when you lived in Retreat at Twin Lakes?
Yes.
And have you since seen an aerial photograph of the 7-Eleven store and the Retreat at Twin Lakes complex?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph, let me ask you to turn your attention to that screen, and Your Honor, if you would dim the lights. Thank you. State's Exhibit 1, do you recognize that to be an aerial photograph of the Retreat at Twin Lakes?
Yes.
Can you describe for the jury where the main gate or main entrance is to that complex?
Top middle.
And if I were to circle it, is that the main entrance?
Yes.
All right, can you describe for the members of the jury where the back entrance is?
Bottom right.
Bottom right. Okay, and have I circled that as well?
Yes.
All right. Tell the members of the jury, if you would, where was your residence approximately?
Coming in from the back gate to the right, on the left, the first building.
All right. And would that be the one that I've circled?
Yes.
All right. That's where you lived with your mother in February 2012?
Yes.
Let me show you State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that as an aerial photograph of the Retreat at Twin Lakes to include the 7-Eleven store?
Yes.
All right. And is the 7-Eleven store appropriately marked in State's Exhibit 2?
Yes.
To the left of the screen within the circle?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, you may raise the lights. Thank you. Do you recall exactly what time it was when Trayvon Martin left to go to the 7-Eleven?
No.
Did Trayvon Martin have a cell phone with him that afternoon when he left to go to the store?
Yes.
Did you ever call Trayvon Martin after he left to go to the store?
Yes.
And what phone did you use to call Trayvon Martin?
My phone.
Did you have a cell phone?
Yes.
In 2012, February, what was your cell phone number?
407-692-7801.
All right.
01.
Let me say it a little bit slower. 407-692-7801?
Yes.
Okay. Did Trayvon Martin answer his cell phone when you called him?
Yes.
And did he tell you what he was doing?
Yes.
What was that?
He was on his way back.
Did he tell you anything about the weather conditions outside?
That it was raining.
Did you speak with Trayvon Martin on that phone call for a long time?
No.
Was it actually a very short call?
Yes.
After you hung up the phone with Trayvon Martin, did you ever see or speak with him again?
No.
What did you do after you got off the phone with Trayvon Martin?
Watch TV, play the game.
And when you say play the game again, are you referring to the PlayStation 3?
Yes.
Where were you playing video games within your residence?
In my room.
And is your room on the first floor or the second floor?
Second.
And does your room face the back grass area of your residence or the street, Retreat View Circle?
The street.
Did the PlayStation 3 game system that you were using have headphones?
Yes.
Can you describe those headphones for the jury?
Covers your ears.
And were you using those headphones that evening?
Yes.
At any point that evening, did you hear anything that sounded like an argument or a gunshot from outside your residence?
No.
Did you ever go outside your residence that evening?
No.
Did you ever recall looking outside your residence that evening?
No.
Did Trayvon Martin come home that night?
No.
Did you try calling Trayvon Martin's cell phone again that evening after you had spoken with him the first time?
Yes.
And what happened when you called his cell phone?
No one answered.
Did your mother, Brandy Green, and Tracy Martin come home that Sunday evening?
Yes.
And were you still awake when they got home?
Yes.
Did you go to bed after your mother and Tracy Martin came home?
Yes.
The next day, Monday, February 27th, did you have school that morning?
Yes.
Did you go to school that morning?
Yes.
And did you learn at some point that day that Trayvon Martin had been killed?
Yes.
When did you learn that?
After I came home from school.
And who advised you that Trayvon Martin had been killed?
My mom and Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Your Honor, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Cross.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just have a couple of questions. You had said earlier that you were watching TV or playing the games with Trayvon Martin.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, were you playing on the video games with Trayvon Martin?
Yes.
Was he on the phone much while you were playing those games?
I don't remember.
Do you ever remember him being on the phone at all?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember.
Okay. But as you were playing, was he playing the video games with you, or was he ever on the phone while he was playing the games?
He was playing the game with me.
Okay. And if we were to look back and say that he left the apartment about, let's say, 6 or so. Well, you don't need to know it exactly. Let's say he left about 6. About how many hours had you and he been playing video games?
I don't know.
Approximately?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember.
Do you recall how many of those hours of the day you were watching TV with him?
No.
Not at all? Were you either watching TV or playing games with him that day?
I was playing games.
Okay. Was he there with you?
Yes.
And was he playing games as well?
Yes.
Okay. You know the area right behind your apartment there, what we sort of call the dog walk? I'm not sure if you call it that, but that pathway that leads between the two buildings?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. You know where the little dog station is at the end of it?
Yes.
You know where that is?
Yes.
Have you ever walked that from your backyard there, sort of down to that walkway?
Yes.
About how long, just guess for me if you would, how long do you think it would take you to walk that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you know about how far it is? Okay. Let me ask you this. You were stepped outside the backyard of your house to the walkway. Could you haul a baseball and get it to the dog, that little dog station?
Yes.
Okay. Softball?
I don't know.
Football?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
May Mr. Joseph be excused?
You may.
Thank you very much. You are excused. Please call your next witness.
Andrew Gall, please.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You may, yes, you may.
Good afternoon, sir. If you'd please tell the members of the jury your name.
My name is Andrew Gaw.
Mr. Gaw, where do you live currently?
Can you have him spell his last name for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am. Would you spell your name, please?
G-A-U-G-H.
All right. Can I get you to scoot up just a little closer to that microphone? Thank you so much. Where do you live currently?
I live in Deltona, Florida.
In Deltona, Florida is located where relative to Sanford?
East Sanford.
And how long, approximately how long, have you lived in the Deltona area?
Roughly about 17 years.
And how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
Are you employed at this time?
Yes, sir.
Where is it that you work?
I work at Rent-A-Center. Rent-A-Center?
And what is it that you do for Rent-A-Center?
I'm a customer account representative.
All right. Let me turn your attention to February 2012. Were you employed at that time?
Yes, sir.
And where were you employed?
7-Eleven.
What was your position with 7-Eleven?
I was a cashier.
And how long were you employed with 7-Eleven?
About a year.
Were you assigned to a particular 7-Eleven store in February 2012?
Yes, sir.
And where was that store located?
Off of Reinhardt Road.
Judge, if you could dim the lights just for a moment. Let me show you State's Exhibit 2. Have you seen that aerial photograph before?
Yes.
All right. Does the aerial in States 2 accurately depict the location of the 7-Eleven located off of Reinhardt Road?
Yes.
You want the lights back on?
Well, I'm going to need you to turn them off one more time. That's up to the court. I've got just a few questions in between. Thank you. Let me turn your attention then to Sunday, February 26th of last year. Did you work at the 7-Eleven on Reinhardt Road that day?
Yes.
And what were your hours?
4 to 10.
AM or PM?
4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
All right. Was there anyone else employed at 7-Eleven working your shift with you?
No, sir.
All right. And was that 7-Eleven store equipped with surveillance video cameras?
Yes.
Do the surveillance cameras capture images inside the store?
Yes.
Are there any surveillance cameras outside the store?
No.
And have you seen footage of your store from the evening of Sunday, February 26, 2012?
Yes.
Specifically, have you viewed footage from that evening of a young man who purchased an Arizona drink product and a bag of Skittles candies?
Yes.
Were you working the register for that particular purchase?
Yes, sir.
Did the young man pay for those items with cash or credit or what?
Cash.
Do you recall any conversation that you would have had with that customer?
No, sir.
Was there anything about that customer that caused you any concern?
Nope.
Did you know the young man who purchased the Arizona drink product and the Skittles?
No.
To your knowledge, had you ever seen him before?
No.
All right, Your Honor, at this time I would ask to publish States 184.
You may do so.
And Ms. Walker, I mean, if you could just pause it right there. All right. Mr. Gaw, looking at the frame, can you describe for the members of the jury where the cash register is on the screen?
To the left.
All right. Is it going to be this area that I've put in the semicircle?
Yes, sir.
All right. What is at the front of the frame? What would you see if you walked to the front of the frame?
Candy, gum, chips.
All right. Is the front door also at the front of the frame?
Yes.
All right. As we look in the back, is that the back of the store?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've seen this before. Is the customer that bought the Skittles and the Arizona drink product the gentleman walking through the store right now?
Yes.
All right. and the time, is that reflected in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Is the time of day reflected in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen?
No.
The 18:22:09, is that not the military time?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Yes.
All right, and so that would be 6:22 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. If you would continue playing that. Mr. Gaw, is that you walking behind the register?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gaw, it appeared that the gentleman who made the purchase picked up something off the floor before he left the store. Do you have any idea what that was?
No, sir.
Do you have any idea if he actually picked something up?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Walter, if you could bring up one of the other camera angles. Mr. Gaw, are there multiple camera angles within that store of the register?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. For example, on this camera view, is that now, again, looking at the counter area?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you'd go to another one. In this view, is this actually from behind the counter, essentially over your shoulder, looking out over the cash register?
Yes, sir.
All right, and the last one. And again, is this also a view of the area behind the register?
Yes.
All right. You know, that's all I have for Mr. Gall. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross?
If I might, I was going to have Mr. Gaw, I want to take part on the state's laptop, but I was going to have all four views shown, so I may as well do it now. I probably know how to do it, but if it's okay,
Judge, Ms. Walter will be happy
anything
to
goes
assist.
wrong with it, I don't
Okay.
want it to be my fault.
Start from the beginning.
We saw the first one, so if you start with number 2, that'd be great. Actually, if you would go to the, I'm sorry, we do need to see this one as well. Thank you. Did you? Thank you very much. That would be enough then. Thank you. I appreciate the help. If I might inquire, Your Honor. Thank you. It's Gaw, correct, Mr. Gaw?
Yes, sir.
Great. I note that in the beginning when the person who we now know to be Trayvon Martin came in the store that you were towards the back of the store. Was there any reason for that?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
I was doing the temperature checks on all the coolers.
Okay. And then you came up to the register, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then after Trayvon Martin went back towards the back of the store, I noticed that you went back around the counter and seemed to be either watching him or having a conversation with him. Do you recall that?
No, sir.
You don't recall why you would have done that?
I usually go to the back room after I take care of customers.
In the video, you seem to not go to the back room. You seem to come right around the counter and stop where he was by that front cooler. You don't recall any reason for that?
No, sir.
Okay. When Mr. Martin came up to the counter, did you have any concern over the time it took him to get the right change, to get money out of his pocket?
No.
Do you remember any of this?
No, sir.
So when you mentioned a moment ago that that was Trayvon Martin who purchased the Skittles and the Arizona fruit juice, that you don't remember this event at all, do you?
No, sir.
So you're just sort of answering because you look on the video, and if we tell you that that was Trayvon Martin and that that was the transaction, then you would concur with that, but you don't remember anything, right?
No, sir.
Okay. May I approach the witness for a moment, Your Honor? Sir, if you can just stand up and come out of the witness box for a minute. Maybe just right here. What type of shoes are you wearing? But say it out loud. Just regular heels?
Yes, sir.
How tall are you?
5'10".
Okay, thank you. Presumably you were 5'10" a year ago as well, right?
I'm sorry?
You were the same height about a year ago?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. No further questions, Ron.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Just briefly. So the bag that you put the drink can in, would that have been a 7-Eleven plastic bag?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Judge, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Gaw, be excused.
You may.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. You may be excused. If you'll please call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sean Knopke.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Nofke, if you would, first thing I'd like you to do, spell your last name for a court reporter.
N as in Nancy, O, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, K-E.
And since Sean has more than one spelling, give us that one too, please.
S-E-A-N.
Mr. Nofke, if you would, briefly introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Tell them how long you worked, where you work, and what you do.
I'm a 911 operator with Seminole County Sheriff's Office, and I have been there for 6 years.
And you said the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. Do you work in what's called the Communication Center?
Yes, sir.
And does that Communication Center handle calls only for the Seminole County Sheriff's Office?
No, sir. Also, Sanford Police Department, Altamont Springs, Castleberry, Longwood, and Oviedo now.
Now, you mentioned also that you are a 911 operator.
Yes, sir.
Does the Communication Center also take calls that are to a line other than 911?
Yes, sir. Non-emergency lines.
Okay. And do you handle both those types of calls?
Yes, sir.
How many people sort of do the same thing you do?
In the same room at the same time, approximately 30.
Okay. And is there a distinction as to what types of calls each person handles, or do y'all just kind of catch whatever comes in?
Say everything, everyone handles everything.
So you're not assigned to a particular shift to only handle 911 or only handle 9 emergency. You handle whatever comes in when it's your turn.
That's right.
Okay. And typically, what sort of shift do you work?
I work typically night shift, overnight till 2 a.m.
Tell me a little bit about what sort of training you have to help you do your job.
It was approximately a month and a half to 2 months of training on the job with a training officer that sits with you, listens to your calls, and makes sure you're doing everything right.
And these calls, when they come in, they recorded?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you also write summaries of them?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Were you working on February 26th last year, 2012?
I believe so.
Your Honor, if I could approach? Yes. Thank you. Show you what's already been stipulated to State's Exhibit 173. It's a composite exhibit with a audio recording as well as a writing. Do you recognize those?
Yes, sir.
What's that?
This is the recording of the non-emergency call I took, as well as the printout of the screen that I typed up.
And when you say the non-emergency call you took more than one that day.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is the one that has to do with this case, right?
That's right.
Mr. Nofke, before I get into going through that phone call, tell us a little bit about how those calls come in and what you do when you get them.
The lines ring into our computer system that shows what line they are, if they're a 911 line or one of our non-emergency lines. Then it's as simple as, there's no rotation, it's just answer as you go.
Okay. And this particular call, was it a 911 call or a non-emergency call?
It was a non-emergency call.
And when you got that call, what is it? Do you have a particular way that you are trained to handle and get information as it relates to these types of calls?
Yes, sir. Typically, at the beginning of the call, with non-emergencies, you address the caller with the agency name that the line is being recorded and your name as well.
Do you have a sort of way to refer to the urgency of the type of call you get?
Yes, we do. Based on the situation that's given, we have policy standards that we follow.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about how you distinguish and what you do to note the urgency level you ascribe to each call.
We have signals, and we actually have the urgency of the call. We have our own set standards. With this kind of call, it was routine. Those calls are generally anything non-emergency, nothing life-threatening, or over with crimes. Then you also have priority, which is anything in progress and typically a physical fight or just occurred robbery. And then you also have urgent, which is typically anything with a weapon or where a loss of life could immediately happen.
Do you have a place on your written summary where you assign the priority that you have given to this particular type of call?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell me where it is and what you call it, what it looks like?
Yes, it's at the top. It's the event type, and this was coded as routine.
Okay. How do I know that from looking at your summary, for example?
Right at the top, it says it's the whole thing is 13 PIR.
And is there a section where you designate the priority for the call?
Yes, sir. That the R is what stipulates that. R for routine.
Do you use numbers sometimes too?
Yes, sir. That's for the signal to tell you what type of call it is.
Okay. And what type of call did you designate this signal as being?
This was a 13P, which is a suspicious person.
Okay. And how about a category 1, 2, or 3? You familiar with what I'm talking about there?
Yes, sir. With this would have been a 3. That also just states that it's a routine call. 2 for priority, 1 for urgent.
All right. Explain for me the difference between priority and urgent.
Priority is anything just occurred with just occurred theft or robbery, or anything with a physical fight. And urgent is anything with a weapon or where immediate loss of life can happen.
When these calls come in, do you attempt to figure out who's calling?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I understand that some calls that come into your call center have an automatic caller ID function and some don't. Could you tell us what the difference is?
Yes, our 911 system has caller ID. If it's from a cell phone, it doesn't give you a location, but it gives you their callback number and the cell tower it hits off of. If it's a landline, such as a residence or a business, it'll show us the exact address and the city that it's coming from. Non-emergency does not have that function.
Okay, so non-emergency, you actually have to ask the questions.
Yes, sir.
And do you do that as soon as you can?
Yes.
Your Honor, with permission, I'd like to publish States Exhibit 173, the court statement.
You may do so. I turned the lights down, but you don't need the lights
I don't
on.
need the lights down for this, but I'm wondering if you turned on the volume too, because this isn't working.
I didn't touch the volume.
Difficulties?
Yes, sir.
Sanford Police Department line is being recorded. Sean.
Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's...
Judge, I guess ask the court to inquire, make sure everybody can hear.
Can you hear? Okay. If at any time you can't hear, if you'll indicate that. Thank you.
Mr. Nofke, you recognize your voice there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you recognize this to be the call you took?
That's right.
A real suspicious guy. It's Retreat View Circle. The best address I can give you is 111 Retreat View Circle. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and either jeans or sweatpants and white tennis shoes. He's here now. He was just staring.
Oh, he's just walking around the area?
At all the houses.
Okay.
Now he's just staring at me.
Okay, and you said it's 1111 Retrieve You or 111?
That's the clubhouse.
That's the clubhouse. Do you know what he's near the clubhouse right now?
Yeah, now he's coming towards me.
Okay.
He's got his hand in his waistband. And he's a black male.
Okay. How old would you say he
He's
looks?
got a button on his shirt. Late teens.
Late teens, okay.
Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with him. Yeah. He's coming to check me out. He's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is.
Okay, just let me know if he does
Get an
anything,
officer
okay?
over here.
Yeah, we got him on the way. Just let me know if this guy does anything else.
Okay. These assholes, they always get away.
Mr. Nofke, you asked at one point there to let you know if the person that the caller was watching did anything else.
Yes, sir.
Are you asking, when you have these conversations with people, what does your training tell you about whether you want callers to sort of engage in investigative activity?
Always with us, we're trying to avoid any kind of confrontation. So we ask that in case something does happen so we can immediately update the units.
When you come to the clubhouse, you come straight in and make a left. Actually, you would go past the clubhouse.
Okay, it says on the left-hand side from the clubhouse?
No, you go in straight through the entrance, and then you make a left. Yeah, you go straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running? Which way is he running?
Down towards the...
Mr. Nofke, we heard conversation about he's running, and then virtually immediately a chiming noise. Have you heard that kind of noise before?
Yes, sir.
And what did you recognize that to be?
Car door.
Virtually contemporaneous with the comment about running.
Yes, sir.
We heard you ask which way.
That's right.
Okay. Again, are you asking for any sort of follow-up, or are you just asking which way did he go?
Asking which way he went for the officers so we can update them as well.
Okay.
entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Mr. Nofke, we've now heard the comments about these assholes and another comment under the breath there.
Gotcha.
Why did you ask if all of a sudden just bust out with the question about are you following him? Where did that come from and why did you ask?
It sounded like movement and wind coming through the phone after he stated that the subject was running. So I immediately asked if he was following.
You heard that kind of thing before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that why you asked?
Yes, sir.
And when you said, we don't need you to do that, I'm just going to ask you, how come you don't or didn't say, order the person to stop and don't follow and anything like that? Why did you phrase it like you phrased it?
The reason we do that is because we're directly liable if we give a direct order. So we always try to give general, basic, not commands, but just suggestions.
So do I understand you to be telling us that you would not, as a dispatch or as a call taker, order a person to either follow or not follow?
That's correct.
And that's because you're on the hook for their actions if they follow your order.
That's right.
But you were clear here, it was not necessary for him to follow anything.
That's right.
And the response was okay?
Yes.
Mr. Nofke, I'm still hearing those noises. Is that
Yes, sir.
the same noises that you heard?
That is.
Okay.
All right, sir, what is your name?
George. He ran.
All right, George, what's your last name?
Zimmerman.
And George, what's the phone number you're calling from?
407-435-2400.
All right, George, we do have them on the way. Do you want to meet with the officer when they get out there?
Yeah.
All right, where are you going to meet with them at?
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go straight past the clubhouse and straight past the clubhouse and make a left. And then they go past the mailboxes. You'll see my truck.
Okay, what address are you parked in front of?
I don't know. It's a cut through, so I don't know the address.
Okay, do you live in the area?
Yeah.
What's your apartment number?
It's a home. It's 1950. Oh, crap. I don't want to give it out loud. I don't know where this kid is.
Okay, do you want to just meet with them right near the mailboxes then?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, George, I'll let him know to meet you with you out there, okay?
Actually, could you have him call me and I'll tell him where I'm at?
Okay, yeah, that's no problem.
You need my number? You got it.
Yeah, I got it. It's 407-435-2400.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, no problem. I'll let them know to call you when they're in the area.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Nofke, what is the purpose of trying to figure out where the caller actually is located?
He said he wanted to meet with an officer, so we need to know where where we need to actually send the officer to.
Okay. And that went from address to truck to call me?
Yes.
As far as you hanging up the phone,
Yes, sir.
under what circumstances on a call that comes in as a non-emergency call would you, as a dispatcher, sort of stay on the line?
Any call where the actual person or that's causing the problem or any altercation where they're actually physically still in the area or they're still being violent. With this kind of situation, that wasn't the case.
If a caller simply says, hey, can you stay on the line with me?
Yes, sir.
Would you stay on it then?
Yes, sir.
And do I understand that the caller here said to you that to just have the officers call him as opposed to waiting back in his truck?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I could have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. No other questions.
Okay, thank you. Cross?
Yes, thank you. And I'm also going to use your device if I might. Thank you. Afternoon, sir.
How are you?
I'm presuming that when you took this phone call back on the 26th, that it was a routine call for you?
Yes, sir.
You did not know that this was going to become the George Zimmerman case when you first took the phone call, correct?
That's right.
And was there anything particularly unusual about this call? Just in general, we'll talk specifics in a minute.
No, sir.
And of course now, even on the internet, you become sort of a mini celebrity for a moment because you were the one who answered the call.
Yes, sir.
It's been analyzed by hundreds, if not thousands of people, correct?
That's right.
And of course, you've now had a much more focused opportunity to review the tape, getting ready for your deposition here today.
That's right.
Correct? Great. I'm sorry? Deposition. I meant trial. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk to you a little bit about that, if I might. And we are going to, I think, have to go through the tape just one more time. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to let it play a little bit, stop, and we'll chat, okay?
Okay.
Hopefully.
Sanford Police Department. Line is being recorded. Sean.
Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious...
We had some break-ins in the neighborhood. You have an opportunity, do you not, to identify the location pretty quickly when you're on the phone with landlines, correct?
Yes, sir.
With cell phones, not as quickly.
No.
Which is why do you try and get some of the information from the person pretty quickly as to where they are?
That's right.
When getting that information, does that give you an opportunity to look at the situation, the subdivision, the mall it might be in, to identify whether or not there have been problems there in the past?
It does give us the opportunity. It'll show us what subdivision or business name, if there is one.
Okay.
Guy, it's Retreat View Circle. The best address I can give you is 111 Retreat View Circle. This guy looks like he's up to no good or he's on drugs or something. It's raining and he's just walking around looking about.
Do you hear any anger in that voice?
No, sir, I wouldn't say so.
Am I already messing up? Oh, then give me 1 second so I can take my junk off that. Thank you. Sorry, Your Honor. Anything in that initial conversation about you where he says, suspicious person, guy just looks like he's on drugs or something, it's raining. Anything that gave you a cause for concern about the caller?
No, sir.
Okay. And you say, is he white, black, or Hispanic. Is that a standard question for identification of the, I'm going to call him the suspicious person for this purpose, okay?
Yes, sir.
Why do you ask the race?
The officer needs to know who they're looking for.
It's just identification,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay. And based upon your asking that question was when he said to you the words, "he looks black."
Yes, sir.
Right? Did he say that in any way that gave you cause for concern?
No, sir.
Okay. Then you said you see what he was wearing.
Yes, sir.
Similarly, you also ask that for identification purposes?
That's right.
That's mainly because if you're going to send an officer, not decided yet, but if you're going to, you want to have that information readily available because it goes out to the cops pretty much right away, right?
That's right.
Okay, and that's the main purpose of it?
Yep.
Any concern with how he answered that?
No, sir.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and either jeans or sweatpants and white tennis shoes.
Any concern with the way he presented that? Any anger in his voice? Any animosity that you could detect?
No, sir.
You are somewhat trained, are you not? 6 years you've been doing this?
That's right.
Trained, aren't you, to get a good feel for the situation that you're addressing?
Yes, sir.
Because obviously if someone is screaming on one end of the phone, you know that that would be a more immediate concern, right?
That's right.
If somebody's obviously intoxicated on the phone, that would be another focus of yours, right?
That's right.
I've heard stories of people calling 911 to order pizza.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So you have to deal with that stuff as well.
That's right.
So you trained pretty well to filter both in and out of your concern areas, the way people are interacting with you?
Yes, sir.
Were you doing that this day?
I can't answer that.
Oh,
I
just
don't remember.
listening.
Just listening? No.
You were?
I'm
or
sorry.
not?
Yes, sir. Yes, I
Okay.
was.
He's here now. He was just staring.
Oh, he's just walking around the
looking
area?
at all the houses.
Okay.
Now he's just staring at me.
Okay, and so it's 1111 retrieve you or 111?
That's the clubhouse.
That's the clubhouse. Do you know what he's near the clubhouse right now?
Yeah, now he's coming towards me.
Okay.
He's got his hand in his waistband. And he's a black male.
No, when he said that to you, he's got his hand in his waistband, and he's a black male. What did you take that to mean?
That he had a hand in his pocket.
Anything more than that?
No, sir.
Was he just further describing him that he said he looks black earlier and now he is a black male?
Yes, sir.
Did that cause you any concern?
No.
How old would you say he
He's
looked?
got a button on his shirt. Late teens.
Late teens, okay.
Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with him. Yeah. He's coming to check me out. He's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is.
Okay, just let me know if he does
Get an
anything,
officer
okay?
over.
You say to him, after he says, he's got something in his hands, yes, he's coming to check me out, don't know what his deal with, you then say, just let me know if he does anything.
That's
okay?
right.
That evidence is a concern that you had for the situation, right?
That's right.
Okay. Because at least at this point, the caller, has he evidenced any anger or animosity yet at this point to the conversation?
No, sir.
Yet he is telling you that he now has a concern about somebody coming towards him, maybe with his hand in his waistband or something.
That's right.
Okay. So, again, based upon your training, was that in an attempt to keep him interacting with you and to find out what else this guy may do?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then he says, get an officer over here, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you at that point then get to that level, if you will, of getting an officer on the way?
I can't recall that specifically.
Is that identified at all? Let me, if I might, it's now, I believe, in evidence, correct? So if I might show you what's now been released into evidence. Is the sheet that goes with it also? It's with him?
Yes.
Oh, great. So I'm just going to have you look at it while I look at mine and show you on the middle of the page right there where you start talking about how you make entries, correct?
That's right.
And there's an entry in there, isn't there, that talks about the request for police?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would that have occurred about the same time as this request that you send somebody over?
I can't answer that specifically without the times matching up.
Okay. You weren't here for our little timeline earlier, were you,
No,
sitting in the
sir.
courtroom? Okay. But at some point, nonetheless, they asked for, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Zimmerman asked for you to send a police officer,
That's right.
correct? And then you repeat, yeah, we have him on the way. So presumably you're about the same time that you're getting them there, right?
That's right.
With you telling the caller that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you repeat again, just let me know if this guy does anything else.
That's right.
Now, based upon your 6 years of doing this and just your common sense, if you tell somebody twice to let you know if the person that they're concerned about is doing anything else, do you think they're going to keep their eye on him?
I can't answer that.
You're the one, you did tell him twice to let you know if that guy did anything else.
Yes, sir.
Right? And you're in, would you agree, sort of the authoritative or command position as the operator on the call?
Yes, sir.
You're supposed to be directing the situation as best you can, right?
Without giving direct orders.
Yeah, we'll talk
as
about
well.
direct orders in a second. But you are trained to take situations, identify them fairly quickly, and to resolve them as best you can.
That's right.
And on 2 occasions, you told Mrs. Zimmerman to let you know whether or not this guy does anything else.
That's right.
Okay. It was suggested whether or not that was your intent to imbue or to invest upon Mr. Zimmerman the opportunity or the requirement to perform investigative duties. And I think you said, of course not. Right?
No, sir.
You just told him to keep an eye on the guy.
In case he approached him further and started an altercation, to immediately let me know so I could update the officers.
Okay. Did you intend by that also to keep an eye on him, just to keep an eye on him?
No, sir.
Why not?
It's best to avoid any kind of confrontation, to just get away from the situation.
Then he says these words.
Yeah, we got him on the way. Just let me know if this guy does anything else.
Okay.
That, by the way, is your second time, right?
Yes, sir.
These assholes, they always get away.
Was there any anger in that comment that you heard?
It sounded calm to me.
Okay.
When you come to the clubhouse, you come straight in and make a left. Actually, you would go past the clubhouse.
Okay, it says on the left-hand side from the clubhouse?
No, you go in straight through the entrance, and then you make a left. Yeah, you go straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running? Which way is he running?
Now, you've now asked him twice to let you know if he does anything else, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you say, which way is he running?
That's right.
Now, a moment ago, you said that you might say, tell me what he's doing, because if there's going to be a confrontation or an altercation, you need to know that.
That's right.
But I thought you said you weren't going to suggest that he do anything else but that.
That's right.
Based upon 6 years of doing this, do you think that if you ask somebody which way they're running, which way somebody else is running, that they may actually go find out?
Judge, I'm going to object. That's speculation. He's asking what someone else might think based on what he says.
I'm going to overrule because the question, I believe, was what does Mr. Knopf do?
Yeah, what would you think when saying that to someone? I'm wondering if you acknowledge, or if you think that when you say to somebody, which way is he running, that they may actually go check out which way he's running.
My intent was to get a location for the officers to look, but I can understand if someone interpreted it a different way. I can't control the way they interpret the words.
Absolutely, and please understand, I'm certainly not suggesting that you had some responsibility in Mrs. Zimmerman getting out of the car, but because you didn't tell him to get out of the car, did you?
No, I did not.
But you did ask him which way is he running.
That's right.
Now, you said a moment ago that you did hear the concept of a doorbell chiming.
That's right.
Back then, I mean, obviously now, today, we know it, but I'm just really curious if you can think back to when this was a non-event phone call for you, back when it was just very routine. Did you actually even notice the door chiming?
I can't answer that. I
Sure.
don't recall.
Sure, you know it today because
Yes.
we've had a year and a half of listening to it. But back then, the chiming didn't mean anything to you, did it?
I can't answer that one way or another.
Okay.
Down towards the other entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Again, at that point, you're asking for more information from Mrs. Zimmerman
That's
to
right.
know who turns out to be Trayvon Martin was heading.
That's right.
You wanted to know which way he was heading.
That's right.
In what direction,
Yes.
towards what entrance,
Yes, sir.
and what path.
Specifically for the officers to know where exactly to look for
I'm
this
sorry.
person.
No, my point was, you also wanted to know what path he was taking, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
Now, that's where you suggest that you can't give a direct order,
That's right.
but certainly you can tell someone to stay in a house, right?
It's not that simple. You don't want to give direct orders to someone. You can make a suggestion for their safety.
If somebody is on the phone with you and there's gunfire outside and
Yes, sir.
cops are involved, and someone says, I'm going to go out and check out what's going on, you're not going to order them to, I know we can't use the word order,
Yes.
you're not going to tell them to stay inside?
I would also tell them, we don't need you to go outside. Just stay where you are.
Okay, so is that sort of just the way you have to say it so you avoid liability?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Zimmerman responded, correct?
That's right.
What did he say?
I believe it was okay.
All right. Now, these shuffling noises that we heard a little while ago,
Yes, sir.
would you acknowledge that that's probably wind noise?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so he gets out of the car, he is talking to you on the phone, and you hear wind noise.
Yes, sir.
There's no suggestion from you, is there, that he was running?
It sounded like his breathing was strained.
Gotten out of the car, and you heard breathing strained over the noise?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then he said okay, and you still hear the noise?
For, I believe, a few extra seconds afterwards.
Is that the
Yes,
same wind noise?
Yes, sir.
Is that noise simply from having a cell phone outside of a car?
Possibly.
Okay. You don't suggest it's anything else, do you?
I can't answer that.
Okay. Just curious because you're the one listening.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you hear any breathing sound there?
No.
Okay. So even if you heard breathing sounds before, you definitely didn't hear them just then, did you?
No.
Okay. Suggesting, if I might, that he's no longer breathing heavy?
I have no way of knowing that.
Okay.
George.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right, sir. What is your name?
George. He ran.
All right, George. What's your last name?
Zimmerman.
Again, at this point, after he thought Trayvon Martin ran, did you hear any anger in his voice or any upset?
No, sir.
Anything that caused you any concern for how Mrs. Zimmerman was acting throughout all this?
No, sir.
And you're still trying to get
Hey, George,
information.
what's the phone number you're calling from?
407-435-2400.
And this is more of a curiosity. I thought you had his phone number.
We always have to ask for it, whether we have it or not.
Okay.
But on this type of call, no, there's no caller ID on the non-emergency lines. So we
Okay,
do
so-
have to ask for it.
Gotcha. So non-emergency cell phone, you don't get the number that shows up.
That's right.
911, you do,
You do. But you
And-
also have to verify it as well.
no matter what. Make sure
No
you have
matter
it
what,
right.
yes.
Great.
Would you have them on the way? Do you want to meet with the officer when they get out there?
Why do you ask that?
Because simply with this kind of call, they don't have to meet with an officer.
Sure.
It could just be check the area for this person, but you always want to ask whether they
Okay.
want to or not.
Makes sense, I guess, since they have the information to relate to the officer.
That's right.
And is it standard protocol that you give them the option?
Yes, sir.
So had George Zimmerman said no, then there would have been no other phone call, no other meet where or how or when or with whom, and
That's right.
that would have been it.
That's right.
But he said yeah.
Yep.
Did he insist on that?
No, sir.
Yeah.
All right, where are you going to meet with them at?
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go straight past the clubhouse. And
What? Did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
What do you think that was?
I have no idea.
Could that have been, and I'm not certain if you've heard this before on a 911 call, flashlight against the palm, trying to get, see if it's
That's the
on?
witness to speculate. He's already said he doesn't know.
Sustained.
Did you give me your insight as, let's hear that again. And tell me what you, if you can, tell me what that is.
yeah.
Said he had no idea.
I'm sorry, let me stop that for 1 second. My concern is that I should have let,
His objection is overruled. You could play it for him again.
yeah, I interrupted. I apologize, Your Honor.
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go
It's that noise.
Yes, sir.
Do you at all any insight on what that is?
No idea.
straight past the clubhouse. And
Again, any
No idea.
insight whatsoever?
No, sir.
Did it seem as though it was coming from his side of the call?
I can't answer that.
Okay. Didn't come from your side of the call, did it?
I have no idea.
Okay, sorry.
straight past the clubhouse and make a left. And then they go past the mailboxes. You'll see my truck.
Okay, what address are you parking?
Now, in his attempt to identify a location for you to have the officers meet him at, he told you that they would see the truck.
Yes, sir.
Any reason why you didn't ask him for the description of the truck at that point?
No, not that I can recall specifically.
Is that standard protocol that when you're going to meet somebody by a vehicle, you get it identified?
Yes, sir.
And any explanation for why that didn't happen here?
No.
Okay.
Front of.
I don't know. It's a cut through, so I don't know the address.
Okay, do you live in?
It's a cut through, I don't know the address. Do you live in the area? Did you have any concern at that point about how Mrs. Zimmerman was acting?
No, sir.
The area?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what's your apartment number?
It's a home. It's 1950. Oh, crap. I don't want to give it out loud. I don't know where this kid is.
Did that give you any cause for concern that didn't want to give out an address while this suspicious person was still nearby?
No, sir.
Okay, you wanted to meet with them right near the mailboxes then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Now, when he said that, did that seem to make sense to you? Mailboxes were identified location and just meet there?
Yes, sir.
Any concern then when...
All right, George, I'll let him know to meet you with you out there, okay?
Actually, could you have him call me and I'll tell him where I'm at?
Okay.
When he said that, any concern with just having the officer call him?
No, sir.
Did anything go up on your spidey sense or your radar that was problematic?
No, sir.
When we talked about these changes, I think Mr. Manti said something like, from mailbox to truck to call me. I'm sorry, address to truck to call me. Did that give you, the person actually listening, any cause for concern as to how Mrs. Zimmerman was acting?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's all
You need my number? You got it.
Yeah, I got it. 407-435-2400.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, no problem. I'll let them know to call you when they're in the area.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think Mr. Manti asked as well, did this call seem to rise to a level of concern where you felt the need to keep Mrs. Zimmerman on the call?
No, sir.
Why not?
The person who he saw that was suspicious had left the area, so there was no need for him to follow, and there was no concern for his safety.
Any concern in the presentation that George Zimmerman said, or how he presented to you, that caused you any concern?
No, sir.
Any of the words that he said?
No, sir.
I mean, we hear there that he says fucking punks. Was that something that got your blood rushing in some form or fashion?
No, sir.
You've heard that many, many times in
That's
your
right.
life as a 911 operator?
That's right.
Is cursing, since you do it on a daily basis, is cursing something that you hear in many of the phone calls you take on?
That's right.
Any concerns about these words that cause you any real concern?
No, sir.
How about the idea that he said these assholes always get away?
No, sir.
None whatsoever?
No.
Then you treated this call as many of your others. You'd sent an officer out there. Did you then just move on in your duties?
That's right.
Do you don't keep track of what's going on with calls once you finish them, do you?
I typically do, yes.
Oh, okay. Anything significant about this?
After finding out what actually happened related to other
okay.
calls we got, yes.
Right, because obviously we will know, as the evidence will present, there were a lot of 911 phone calls that came in from the area.
That's right.
Okay. I might just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
Thanks very much, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Please, Your Honor. Mr. Nofke, the caller never identified the individual by name or suggested that he knew who he was, did he?
No, no, sir.
Okay. But yet called him an asshole and a fucking punk.
That's right.
Okay. Does that, Mr. Romero was asking, does it suggest to you any number of things? Does it suggest to you that he had nice feelings and warm
I'm sorry,
thoughts?
Your Honor, this would be redirect still with the rules, so I object to this leading the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Please rephrase your question.
Does it suggest to you that the caller had nice thoughts or something else?
Leading, again, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
It suggests calling someone an asshole and a fucking
Oh,
punk?
no, I'm sorry. No, sir.
Okay.
No,
No.
sir.
Might it suggest things such as ill will?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, again, leading question, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll rephrase your question.
Sure. Mr. O'Mara discussed whether you had any, whether it elevated, I think your blood was the phrase that he used.
Yes, sir.
You're used to hearing people call each other these things,
That's right.
okay? And the feelings that follow with those words in your experience are what?
Hostile.
There was a point where you asked the race of the individual,
That's right.
and you got an answer.
Yes, sir.
What was the answer?
Black male.
Okay, he looked black.
Yes, sir.
There was a second point. Do you remember the part where you discussed with Mr. O'Mara, has his hand in his waistband?
That's right.
And then the next phrase was,
I don't recall specifically.
okay. Do you remember being told he's a black male again?
Yes, sir.
Did you ask that time?
No, sir.
And in fact, you'd already heard.
That's right.
And when you said, and Mr. O'Mara asked you, your words to the caller, the defendant,
That's right.
about let me know if he does anything else, you remember those questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, were your words?
My exact words?
Yes.
I don't recall exactly word for word.
Did we hear it on the tape?
Yes, sir.
Did you say, let me know?
Yes.
Did you say, go find out?
No.
Did you say, follow or keep an eye on?
No, sir.
Did you say, go investigate?
No.
I'm going to focus for a minute. This is the part of the tape where we hear the getting out of the car.
That's right.
You go straight in. Don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running. Which way is he running?
Down.
Did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
How long was it between he's running, which way he's running, and those door noises?
Immediately.
Okay. So getting out of the car, was that because you asked anything, or was that already in progress?
Object, Your Honor, that would call speculation from this witness.
Sustained.
Does the tape speak for itself?
Yes.
It's all going on right at the same time.
That's right.
Now, you talked about the wind noise versus the running noise. Remember that series
Yes.
of questions? And I guess Mr. O'Mara asked you, you thought it might be running, I think you said because you also heard some breathing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There was a point in time where the what you described as wind noise stops. You recall that?
That's right.
Okay. But I guess let me ask you, what clued you into getting out of the car was the noises we just heard, the clicking and the door chimes and that?
Yes.
Did you ever hear anything indicating he got back in the car?
No, sir.
But there was a point in time where the wind noise stopped?
That's right.
And yet the conversation went on?
That's right.
So whatever stopped that wind noise wasn't getting back in a car?
I don't know.
No other questions, Judge? Thank you.
Just a few. So possibly the wind noise may have stopped because he had gone past an opening area to where he walked next to another building and the wind stopped. Would that be a possibility?
A possibility, yes.
Okay, so it could have happened that way, right? He was out in the open, let's say in an area between two buildings, then he walked past the opening between two buildings. When he got next to the second building, the wind stopped?
That's a possibility.
Okay. Did you ever, you knew he got out of the car. I think we now, did you, let's be clear. Because I thought you cleared this up earlier. We now know that he got out of the car because 16 months of all this. But I thought you said back then, with that little dinging, did you even know he got out of the car?
I can't answer that one way or another.
You don't know, right?
Yes.
If you had heard dings and you remembered him back then and thought he got out of the car and asked him if he was following him, right? Because you did do that.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you tell him to go back to the car?
I had no idea if he was in a car or not.
Well, he told you where his truck was, right?
That was afterwards.
Oh, okay. The hostility that might come from fucking punks. I want to be clear. Did you hear any of that hostility in the conversation?
No, sir.
Okay. So while you may believe that if someone says fucking punk somewhere else, it might be a hostile statement, the hostility was not evident in any of your conversation with Mr. Zimmerman, was it?
No, sir.
Okay. And this part about looking black and actually being black.
That's right.
His first statement to you was, you asked him race, and he said he looks black.
That's right.
Did that seem definitive to you?
No, sir.
He didn't just say he's black, he said he looks black.
That's right.
And then, when he got a better look at him as he was coming towards him, I think with his hand in his waist, he said he's a black male.
That's right.
Did that, to you, just seem like he was confirming the race?
Yes.
Did it seem like he was focusing on saying black twice because he had some racial overtones to it?
I have no idea. I can't answer that.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further
Thank you.
questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May Mr. Nofke be excused?
Yes, Your Honor, subject to possible recall.
Thank you, sir. You're excused subject to being recalled. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Ramona Rumpf, Your Honor.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Ma'am, do me a favor. Go ahead and spell your first and last name for our court reporter.
Ramona Rumpf, R-A-M-O-N-A-R-U-M-P-H.
And Ms. Rumpf, where do you work and how long have you been doing that?
Seminole County Sheriff's Office since May 19th, 1987, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Communications Division, which encompasses the custodian of records.
Okay. And the Communications Division, is that what we've heard from Mr. Nofke, is the 911 and non-emergency call center?
Yes, it is.
And when you say you're the records custodian, that sounds like a big job. What is it?
That's maintaining the calls that are received on 911 and non-emergency lines, and also the CAD screens, which is the computer-aided dispatch for documented events.
And how long have you worked there for the Sheriff's Office?
For 26 years.
And Ms. Rumpf, the nature of your duties, does that involve occasionally having to retrieve and verify records of prior calls?
Yes.
And are these calls documented both on tape as well as in written memoranda that are prepared for records purposes?
Yes.
Mayor, if I could approach. Ms. Rumpf, I'm showing you what is first marked as State's Exhibit 171 and 172, a composite exhibit, and then three more, 158, 159, 160, 161, and 162, 163. Do me a favor. Tell me if you have seen these exhibits and if you recognize them as true and accurate records maintained by your agency and retrieved by yourself.
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, to the extent they haven't been received into evidence yet, I would move those numbered exhibits as into evidence.
Numbers 159 through 163 have been. Numbers 171 and 172 have not. Are there any objections?
No, Your Honor. In sequence, the first ones are the 911 calls, no objections, and then 171 and 172. Thank you. No objection.
No objections. 171 will come into evidence, and so will 172.
Let me first start, Ms. Rumpf, with the distinction between 911 and non-emergency calls. Tell us a little bit about that and what the difference is into how those two calls are treated by the call center.
A 911 call is a call placed at the time of an emergency or the time that the person's deemed that they have an emergency. All of our calls are recorded when the line rings, and a CAD screen is created for dispatch. And a non-emergency call is just that, received on an administrative line, and it is received with crimes that are over with or a crime that is non-life-threatening.
Were you asked to retrieve a series of prior non-emergency calls placed from a particular phone number by George Zimmerman to the call center beginning in August of 2011, extending through the early part of February 2012?
Yes.
And are those represented in, I believe it's 171 and 172 before you?
Yes.
Okay. Are there written documents affiliated with each of those?
Yes.
Okay. And they are also on a disc recording?
Yes.
Okay. If I could, I want to talk a little bit about these written reports that are made. You're familiar with those and the information those contain?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to, would you be able to help explain what one of those looks like to the jury and what information is contained on one of those?
Yes.
Okay.
It is, as I stated, what we refer to as a CAD screen, which is computer-aided dispatch. And that screen is created whenever you call in a complaint, and it is the date and time that is it's time-stamped, so to speak, like you would have on a receipt when a call is received, and we complete the information that the caller is giving us, the location of the event, the type of event, the person's name and phone number, if they're willing to give it, and any additional information regarding that event is obtained at the time of that call.
And Your Honor, could I request the lights, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Rumpf, directing your attention to the screen up here, and I know that may be a ways to try and see it. Let me ask you in general terms. Up here in the top left corner, is this, for starters, is that what you recognize to be one of the written records that you've just been describing?
Yes, it is.
And up here in the top left corner, there's a phrase called an event number. Would you tell us what that means, please?
An event number is basically like what it sounds. It is associated with an event, and it is created by the system. So it is linked to an event. It's basically what it sounds like, an event number, like a case number, so to speak.
And tell me about the times that are available to the people who keep the records in the call center as far as telling when a particular call connects and disconnects and how that is recorded.
The information is the Annie and Allie information up in the upper left-hand corner, and it gives you the date and time. Annie and Allie is automatic number identifier and automatic location identifier, ANI and ALI. And then it has a minute and second. The next time is the connection time, which is also date and time stamped. And the next time is the created time, which is also date and time stamped.
What's the difference between those two, connected and created?
The connection time is the time that we actually picked up the phone and answered the phone. And then the created time is the time that the person taking that phone call sent that call in, or event added it, sent it in to be dispatched, sent in a call for service.
Down in this section of the report, you start with location and caller name and that sort of thing. Where does that information come from?
That information on this call would have been given to us by the caller, Twin Trees Lane. The
and
caller. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And this particular call, is this a 911 call or a non-emergency call?
That is a 911 call, and you can tell from the call source.
That tells you that right there where I just drew a very bad circle?
Yes, where you drew the very bad circle.
Okay. And is there a priority affiliated with this call?
Yes, it is.
And what is it?
3.
What does that mean?
That is a routine call.
I'm sorry, priority 3 means?
Routine 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Tell me, how would a 911 emergency call be a routine prioritization, and does prioritization ever change?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Tell me how.
Based on the information, like I said, a 911 call can be placed at the time a person deems that they have an emergency. During the course of that call, as information is obtained, that call can be changed or upgraded. So it can start out as a call that's routine. However, the call taker can make that decision to upgrade that call based on the information that is being given to them or the information that they are obtaining from the caller.
And is that what happened with this call?
Yes, sir.
Does that tell us that down here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where it says the big word upgrade?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the information that you could glean from this, is there a way to tell whether this call might be related to any other calls or any other incidents?
Yes, it is.
How can you tell that?
If you will look up the screen, so to speak, you will see where it says C event 1671, and that is our way of tying events together. So it's saying that that event was EVD, which stands for a duplication, and we used one primary screen at that time, which was event 1671.
Okay. Now, Ms. Rumpf, there were a number of 911 calls placed that night?
Yes.
And were they all essentially, did you determine whether they were related or not?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Specifically, the date that was reflected on that one, and I guess on all the 911 calls, at the 26th of February 2012?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to leave those aside for the moment. I want to go to the non-emergency calls, the prior calls by George Zimmerman to the call center. You're aware of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did tell me the date on the first one of those that you have in front of you. And Your Honor, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. August 3rd, 2011.
That was August 3rd, 2011?
Yes.
And that was placed from which phone number?
407-435-2400.
Can you tell me the priority affiliated with that call?
It was a routine call received on an administrative line, non-emergency line.
And have you reviewed the recording that's in front of you already in evidence?
Yes.
Your Honor, with permission, I'll publish that recording.
You may do so.
Thank you.
Burglarized or robbed today, and my wife always.
Airport Police Department, the line is recorded. Petra.
Hey, our neighborhood got burglarized or robbed today, and my wife, I saw one of the kids that did it, and we see someone that matches his description in the neighborhood right now again.
Okay, and what's your address out there?
I'd rather not give out my address because he's obviously in the neighborhood, but it's Retreat View Circle. You can use 1111, which is the clubhouse.
Okay, so does he live in the neighborhood, or he's just out walking?
I don't know. It's the first time I've ever seen him.
Okay. And what is your name?
My name is George.
Your last name, George?
Zimmerman.
And your phone number you're calling from?
407-435-2400.
Okay. And is he white, black, or Hispanic?
Black.
And what's
My
he
wife
wearing?
talked to Detective Walker and gave him a description of the guy we see now.
Okay. And what's he wearing right now?
A white tank top and black shorts, and brown sandals, and black socks.
Okay. And is he walking?
Yes.
Okay. And so is he near the...
The back entrance to the neighborhood.
So he's at the back entrance?
Yeah.
Just went between the houses.
He just went between the houses to the back?
Yeah.
Shoot.
He was looking at your car.
I'm not.
No, he's not.
Why not?
Don't call. Okay, we'll get an officer out there, check the area.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rumpf, what time of day was that call placed?
At 18:45.
I'm sorry, is that 6:45 p.m.?
Yes.
I'm going to move to the next call, which
Your Honor, I then would move to strike the testimony and the exhibit unless there's a relevancy to this. I presumed it would come.
I asked if there was any objection to the exhibit being introduced, and you said no.
But not to relevance of it. And I hope I didn't misspeak, but I would have presumed that there would have been some...
There was nothing spoken. I asked exhibits, I had announced that exhibits 158 through 163 were already in evidence, and asked you if you had an objection to 171 and 172, and you said no.
You are correct, Your Honor. I would ask you, and I apologize, I thought we were talking mechanics rather than admissibility or relevance. I would ask, I still would move to strike the testimony and the underlying exhibit on grounds of no relevance. And I apologize if my statement suggested that I found all of these to be relevant. I thought we were dealing with the mechanics.
When I ask if something's being admitted into evidence and the answer is no, and I said it'll come into evidence as, they will come into evidence as 171 and 172.
You're correct, Your Honor.
They're in evidence and they're allowed to publish them. So now you want to object to the two exhibits?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please put your notepads face down. There's something we have to take up outside your presence, and follow Deputy Jarvis back into the jury room. Please be seated.
And I truly apologize for the confusion. The objection is that it is not relevant to any material issue in this case. Being charged with second-degree murder, I don't find any.
Okay,
well,
your
that's all I
objections.
need to say is relevant. Sorry.
Relevance response?
Certainly. Your Honor, we have heard already extensive testimony about prior comments during the evidence that did not get objected to, that being the non-emergency call from the date in question, February 26th. Included in those comments was, these assholes always get away. And I think it is certainly relevant then to meet some of the calls about which the defendant is speaking when he says they always get away. These calls are relevant to establish what it is and the context behind that statement. Number two, Mr. West went to great lengths in his opening statement, and there has also been additional discussion already about the evidence already, the exhibits already in evidence about supposed prior break-ins and prior crimes and that sort of thing in the neighborhood. Again, this shows this defendant's response to what he's complaining about when he calls even on the date in question. It's a 6-month period immediately up to and preceding, and in fact one of them preceding by about 2 weeks, the incident in this case. So I think it is relevant to show the defendant's state of mind when he makes the call on the 26th to explain what it is he's talking about. And there's certainly no objection as to their authenticity. So that would be, I think they're relevant to prove material facts that have already been admitted and argued about at length.
Response?
Well, the response is, again, the state needs to show that they are relevant to a material issue now. If what they're saying is that these are prior, bad acts of my client, there is a specific provision.
I don't think it's under bad acts.
Okay, so it's not under bad acts.
State of mind.
State of mind. A exception because he's thinking a certain way. I think that they would have to meet a much higher burden than to say that because he said fucking assholes and fucking punks.
No, I think it's what they're saying is because he said they always get away, and
that there have been a lot of break-ins.
There have been a lot of break-ins, and that was brought out in openings.
Absolutely, but why does that make prior events, or prior calls for that matter, relevant to today's proceedings? He said they always get away. If, for example, he said they always get away in some aggressive manner, which was not testified to, the only witness who's testified to this evidence, there may be some connectivity, but without that, what they're really trying to do now, I guess, and I definitely would want to proffer, because if you're going to go back and say he's done something 5 or 6 times, it has to be relevant for this court's consideration. Other than that, they're trying to show some, they may not be calling it bad acts, but why are they presenting it if it's not? So what's the relevance? Isn't the real reality that the state carries the burden of proving that my client acted with ill will, hatred, spite towards this Mr. Trayvon Martin at all? So how does, how does anything in the past get brought in if it's not reputation, which it's not, if it's not a prior bad act under some other exception, it's not. So how are they bringing in something 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 months before as having a relevancy to today's proceedings?
I'll spell it out even further if I need to, Your Honor. The relevance is that this defendant, if we have to establish his state of mind, which is an element of second-degree murder, the last time I checked, malice, ill will, spite, and evil intent were all directly related to the state of mind of the accused perpetrator. And also, jury will be instructed that this is an act or series of acts. I think it is certainly relevant to show the defendant's state of mind on this night, whether it relates to this particular victim or not, is brought about by his constant and ongoing frustration over, quote, these assholes always getting away.
So it is relevant. It's relevant to show the basis for his comment, as well as what's been going on. And oh, by the way, it's already been, again, admitted and talked about as far as the defense claiming that there were all those prior break-ins. So let's talk about them then.
A brief response. I think what the state is now focusing on, I want to make sure before I fully respond, that they're trying to get this in under a state of mind, a then existing mental, emotional, physical condition. I think a review of that subsection of the evidence code dealing with the hearsay statement suggests that if they are trying to prove the then, if that's where they're going, they're trying to prove the then existing state of mind, my client's state of mind when making the 911 phone, the non-emergency phone call on the 26th. What they're really trying to do is say, well, let's go back and see that, for an example, you may find out in this call that he was calling about a black male. So if that's what they're going to do, they're going to try and say to this jury that he called them a black male before when there's no connectivity between the two. That's a bad act that they're trying to get in, and that's not state of mind. And if you read the state of mind provision, it's quite limited in proving my client's state of mind on this day. And how do you do that? You listen to the tape. The jury can listen to this tape and decide what his state of mind was.
Actually, Judge, the exception that the state provided for these calls is that they're business records. State of mind is a hearsay exception. They might otherwise qualify, but state of mind is an element of the crime of second-degree murder. They've been arguing that since the get-go and actually read the jury the instruction during voir dire. So the state's doesn't have to meet the state of mind hearsay exception requirement to enter this into evidence. The business records exception does that. It's admissible for that purpose. State of mind is an element of the crime, and therefore this is relevant to establish the defendant's state of mind when he says, these assholes always get away and there have been a lot of break-ins.
Okay. Does anybody have any case law to support their argument?
Well, not anticipating the argument, I don't, Your Honor, but if we wish to recess for tomorrow, I'd be happy to try and go get some. I don't have any to hand you right now because I didn't know where, I thought they were coming in. I didn't know that there was going to be an objection.
Well, there wasn't an objection at first, and now there is an objection, so that's the status of where we are. 90.803 subsection 3 is the then existing mental, emotional, or physical condition. A statement of the declarant's then existing state of mind, emotion, or physical sensation, including a statement of intent, plan, motive, design, mental feeling, pain, or bodily health, when such evidence is offered to prove the declarant's state of mind, emotion, or physical sensation at that time or any other time when such state is an issue in the action. Prove or explain acts of subsequent conduct of the declarant.
Certainly, the evidence is February 26th being subsequent to August 3rd.
Okay. Well, I will.
I'm sorry.
I will go ahead and recess for the day, and we can take this up at 8:30 in the morning and have the jury be back at 9, and we can start that. If you don't mind, are you available to come back tomorrow? Okay, thank you very much. So Ms. Rumpf is available to come back tomorrow. The court will bring the jury back in. We'll recess for overnight and give counsel an opportunity to do the research on this overnight, as will the court, and have counsel back at 8:30 to continue this argument. And as I said, we'll have the jury come back at 9. Is that acceptable to both sides?
Yes, Your Honor, and I'm sorry, I missed the time for counsel to report. What time?
8:30?
8:30, yes, Your Honor.
Acceptable?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring the jury back in so I can discharge them for the day. Please be seated. Don't get too comfortable. The matter that we're taking up outside your presence is going to take a little longer, and instead of having you sitting back there, I'm going to recess as far as the jury is concerned for the day. So we will see you at 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning. If you'll please give me a moment, I'll go ahead and give you my instructions. During the overnight recess, you're not to discuss the case amongst yourselves or with anybody else. You're not to read or listen to any radio, television, or newspaper reports about the case. You're not to use any electronic device to do independent research about the case, people, places, things, or terminology. And you're not to read or create any emails, text messages, Twitters, tweets, blogs, text messages, or social networking pages about the case. Does everybody agree to abide by the court's instructions? Okay, is there anybody who is not going to be able to abide by that? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. With that, you're excused for the evening. Enjoy your evening. Please leave your notepads face down. They will be locked up overnight. Please be seated. Ms. Rupp, you're excused until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. During the overnight recess, you are still under oath. It's as if you're still on the stand, so you're not to discuss your testimony with anybody. That includes the lawyers. Okay, thank you very much. You're excused until 9. Counsel, is there anything else we need to take up before we recess for the evening? No. We'll see you, counsel, at 8:30 in the morning. Court is in recess. Have them individually marked.
Yes, ma'am.
So those exhibits that are individually marked need to be given to the clerk. And so do you have exhibits 1 through 163 here with you now?
I can put them on a disc in very short order.
Okay.
And tender it to the clerk.
Marked.
Yes, ma'am.
The clerk's supposed to take possession
Yes.
of any exhibits that are marked.
Yes, ma'am. I will provide a CD before we leave.
The CD is going to be marked as one exhibit. You have them marked 1 through 163. If you have a clerk sticker on them and they've already been accepted, they have to be in the clerk's possession. Do you have them with you?
Not in a hard copy, but I can make a
then,
CD. I'm sorry if I'm not understanding what you're saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but you've handed me an exhibit list, and you have exhibits, each one individually marked,
Yes,
1 through 163.
Yes, ma'am.
Those have been accepted into evidence. 163 pieces of paper need to be given to the clerk because that's how they're marked.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you don't have them with you now?
I don't, but I will get them, within 30 minutes.
The court will make an exception and have them here in the morning. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? Susan, are you okay? Okay, thank you. Court will be in recess.